Hello.
Hey there.
Hi. Do you see
It
me?
worked. No, I don't see anything. It's a blank blue. Oh, there you are.
Here I am. I don't see
Hi.
you, but that's okay.
Huh. Maybe I'm blocking the camera. My
You
phone
probably have to
is
turn on
blocked.
the camera, but that's okay.
Okay, we most importantly need to see you because
Okay.
you're in the hot seat.
Here I am.
How's it going?
Good. I'm
Good.
sitting in my hotel room.
That's always fun.
Yes. Lily, are you
Say
there?
hi to Sydney.
Hi,
Lily,
Sydney.
come here. He can't see you. For some reason, he can't see us. Say hi.
Hello.
There's hello. There's
Hello.
Lily.
It's kind of funny to be Skyping with you, given that I'm just like down the road over here in Orlando.
I know.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe we could get out to Orlando tomorrow, but whatever.
No, it's okay. I'm in meetings all day, literally. So
That's what I figured. We'll make it work. All
okay.
right. I'm going to tape you while you're speaking. I'll film you on my phone.
Oh, I'm put on hold. Hello. Are you there?
Yeah, sorry, my phone rang and it cut you off.
Oh, I see. Okay.
All right. Hold on. Camera.
Okay, so you're gonna be behind.
Yeah, we'll be behind you. I'm going to see that blanket. Is that okay?
Who cares? It's a blanket.
Okay.
Giving Lily too? No.
No, just get Adam's face.
Okay, so
Speak clearly so we can
Okay.
see you on the video.
Lily, just to let you know, I'm recording this conversation so that if you don't get all your notes, I'll send you the link and you can just listen to it again to get whatever answers you didn't write down.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So wait. I don't know what to say. At the
Say,
beginning.
okay, so you just greet him like it's a phone call.
What do I have to say?
You can say, my first question for you is.
Or maybe she should say, like, today I'm going to interview my mother's cousin, Adam.
Okay.
Adam Ross, who lives in San Francisco, California.
Okay. Hello, my name is Lily, and I'm interviewing my mom's cousin, Adam Ross, who lives in San Francisco. So, the first question is, when and where were you born?
I was born in Buffalo, New York in December 1967. December 13th to be specific.
Okay. What did you think life would be like when you were older?
You mean when I was young, what I thought it would be like when I got older?
Mhm.
Well, one thing I'll tell you that I did when I was in kindergarten, because I was a bit of a smarty pants, I sat there and counted on my fingers. This year is 1973, and I'm 6 years old, and in 1974, I'll be 7 years old. And I counted all the way up and figured out that in the year 2000, I would be 32 years old. And so I decided right then that 32 would mean that I would be an adult. And the other thing I told myself at that time, in being very precocious, being very smarty pants, as I said, Adam, being a kid is going to fly by, and the next thing you know, you're going to be an adult. And here I am. I'm 47 years old. I'm 15 years past this time that I thought I would be an adult. And I thought that I would be really serious because I was a really serious kid. But as I've gotten older, I've actually gotten sillier. So the way that I've turned out is a little bit different than the way that I thought I would be when I was younger.
Okay, so what do you do for a living?
What do I do for a living? Well, I've been a teacher since I left college. I've taught Chinese in a number of high schools, although for the past year and several months, I'm working in a elementary and middle school where I'm not actually teaching, but I'm developing online content for our Chinese language teachers. And I work in a school that's a bilingual immersion school, and the students are taught half the time in Chinese and half the time in English.
Cool. The next one is, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
Well, this is funny. I thought that I would be a teacher when I would grow up. And the funny thing is I remember being in about second or third grade, and I would tell people that when people ask me, Adam, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I can't tell you how many people looked at me and when they said, a teacher? Why would you want to be a teacher? You won't make any money. And it's kind of true. I don't make a ton of money, but make enough to live on, and I get time off on holidays, so it's a pretty good living.
Um, if you could do anything now, what would it be and why?
If I could do anything now, well, something I did 3 years ago was to go on sabbatical, which means that I took time off from my job and I traveled around the world, and I enjoyed it so much I would do it all over again. I would just go to different places this time, or maybe go back and visit some places that I like, but go visit other places. So travel around the world is something I'd always do.
That's what I would do.
Good for you.
Where is your mom's family from? Where is your dad's family from?
So, my mom's family originally is from Italy, and this is relevant to you because my mom's family is the same as your grandfather's family. They're both the Sidonis. So, my grandfather came from a small town called Castel d'Ansidonia. In other words, the Castle of Ansidonia, which is outside of the city of L'Aquila. And my grandmother, your great grandmother, Angela Leonardis, came from a town called San Demetrio, which was nearby your great grandfather's town. And I'll also mention the city of L'Aquila. I visited a couple times, once when I was 13 and once 2.5 years ago during my year traveling. And about 7 or 8 years ago, the city of L'Aquila and the surrounding areas had a tremendous earthquake that destroyed much of the city. And I went and I visited the main city of L'Aquila, and it's still, everything is under scaffolding, and there's not many people living there. It's really kind of a tragedy because it's a very beautiful city. But that's where they come from in south central Italy. But of course, they immigrated to the United States and settled in Buffalo, New York, and that's of course where your grandparents live, as well as my mom and my sister.
Okay. What traditions have been passed down in your family?
What traditions have passed down in my family?
Yes.
So I would say that the one tradition that comes to mind is one that you have taken part in, is our regular Christmas meal, which is also your father's birthday, and that meal is always to make homemade ravioli. Although we didn't have it this past Christmas because of my sister's illness. But I just was in Buffalo last week, and I spoke to your grandmother as well as my sister, and I pledged that we're going to make the ravioli again this year. I'll be flying into Buffalo on the 20th, and we'll have several days before Christmas to make the ravioli. And I believe that you guys will be flying in right on Christmas Day to enjoy that dinner. So that's probably the tradition that stands out the most.
What is your first memory of your life?
What is the first what of my life?
Memory.
First memory. Well, I have a memory that I don't know is actually a real memory, but it was something vivid that I remember that may have been a dream. And there's no picture of this, but what I remember is I must have been about 2 or 3 years old, and it was Christmas Day. And I remember actually just kind of crawling down the stairs on Christmas Day and going into my living room and seeing toys laid out all around the floor of the living room. And I remember going up to one of those Fisher Price toys that's kind of a wooden block with a pole, and you have these plastic shapes like a red triangle or a blue circle with a hole in it, and you kind of stack them on top of of that pole. And I went up to that toy, and all of a sudden there was a big flash, and I turned around, and my mother was sitting on the sofa behind me taking a picture. But I don't know if this was just a made up memory because there's no picture of this event. And when I think about it, my mom probably wouldn't have laid toys all around the floor of the living room. She would have just put them under the tree. So this was a vivid memory I had that I had since I was a young child, but I think it may have just been a dream all the same.
Oh, can you tell me? Can you tell me what it felt like when your father died?
So, this actually, I've got another interesting story about this, and it might be a little creepy. Are you ready to hear a slightly creepy story?
Sure.
Is that okay? Okay. So my father died in 1999 when I was again 32 years old, the year that I decided that I'd be an adult. Um, and he had been ill for some months. The last time I saw him was over Christmas. I flew back. I was living in Seattle, and I flew back to Buffalo, and I saw him at Christmas. He was in the hospital, so he didn't join us for Christmas dinner. And then I was back in Seattle in January, and my sister was living in France at the time, and she flew back from France to go see him. And this is at the end of January. And we were hearing that he was doing a little bit better, and he was in good spirits and had a good talk with Kate and so on. And this was on a Thursday. And on Friday, I was starting to think I maybe should need to go back again since my sister was there and so on. So on Friday night, I went to bed, and then I had another dream. Okay, so here's lots of dreams for you. But this dream was an incredibly vivid dream, and I was dreaming that I was in the car with my father, and my father was driving, and I was in the passenger seat. And we were driving through this rural road with lots of green grass on each side. It looked like the landscape you would see in Vermont where I went to college, and I almost can't even imagine what road it was on. And then all of a sudden my father said, "I don't feel well," and he pulled over to the side of the road, and because he wasn't feeling well, his head just slumped down on the steering wheel. And I turned and I'm like, "Oh my God." And I opened up the car door, and I ran around the car to open up the other car door. And as I opened up the car door, the phone rang. And the phone was the actual phone. It was a phone ringing in my house, and it woke me up. And I woke up with a start, and I knew at that moment that my father had passed away. And that's what it was. I picked up the phone, and it was my mother telling me that my father had passed away that evening before. So this is slightly creepy. I mean, was this my father's way of saying goodbye to me in my sleep? And it was just I was just kind of stunned, when I picked up the phone because I was half asleep and half still dreaming, and my mother's telling me that my father had passed away. So I was feeling a lot of confused emotions because I was still half dreaming and half trying to process what had happened. So. Funnily enough, this is a story that I've shared with my students when I was teaching high school many times because we watched a Chinese movie that shows a similar scene where a younger a person thinks about a family member and then wakes up and finds out that person has died. But that family member seems to have left her a little message somehow that seems a little supernatural. So I talk about this personal experience I have and how it's represented in this film when we talk about this. So there's a very long answer for you, but I think it's an interesting story all the same.
It is. That's crazy.
It's a little crazy.
Who are your favorite relatives?
Who are my favorite relatives? Well, I would have to say, if I have to think of my favorite relatives, was probably my grandmother, who was your great grandmother, Angela Leonardis. She passed away when I was only 6 years old, but I still have very, very, very clear memories of her. And she was a woman who loved children. So whenever my sister and myself, or the same with your mother and your Uncle Brian. Whenever we would go visit to her house, she just loved having us around. And I remember even one time when my mother and